I want to share a technique that's had a powerful impact and how it ties in. Well, it's had a powerful impact in my life and how it ties in with a couple of different paradigms. So here's the technique. Number one is write out something. Pick an issue. So pick an issue that you're wanting to look at with more depth, that you want to understand more clearly, that you want to make a better decision around this issue. So I have a number of kind of important decisions coming up, and I'm aware that what I decide will have a very big impact on my life. And so the challenge is to differentiate the cacophony of inner voices and understand where they're coming from, who they are. Now, as part of this paradigm, it's important to understand that the family, which is not just one's biological family, although the biological family always exists as a microcosm within the inner voices. There's an identity that is there for each family member, and there's a dialogue going on between various parts of the family inside. So that's part of it. But the family also consists of key relationships. Anytime you've had a relationship that's deep enough to adjust or modulate your identity around. So this is typically, if you're a healthy person, any lover relationship, right? Because part of a lover relationship is taking two distinct energies and creating a third energy. And in the creation of that third energy and in the attunement between two energies, you have a change, and you now have an ability to have, you internalize both people inside, so that now you can say, oh, she would like this, he would like that. I'll bet he's thinking this. Now, the ability to do that is because that inner dialogue is going on inside. And it's useful to understand the inner dialogues around a decision. So the technique, having picked an issue, is first of all, take the loudest voice, right? So you say, and I do this in an email. So let's say the loudest voice, the first voice, is, I really don't want to do this, right? So you just write that down. And it's way too complex to keep in your mind. So you write it down in person. I really don't want to do this. Now, and we'll change color here. So then as a witness, and this is the key interjection into the dialogue, as a witness, you say, tell me more. Right? You have space for whatever's there. So the witness is, in a sense, playing the role of a therapist. But the witness's job is simply to be present and curious. Now, if you cannot be present and curious, now this is important because there are some inner dialogues that you cannot be present for because you're in a reactive loop around. If you cannot be present and curious, who's this person talking, right? Because this may be a great aunt, maybe your last lover, maybe your brother, right? But that's the loudest voice in the dialogue. And the job that you want to discover is, who is this? And how did this come into the conversation? So tell me more. But again, if you try and do that and be curious and learn about who's there, and you have another critic voice step in, don't listen to them. That's rubbish. How can you be curious about what they have to say? They know nothing, right? You listen. You hear that reaction. If there's no room for the witness in the first response, you then hear what the reaction is. Then you go again into the witness. Tell me more. Right? So you want to find a voice in the reactive cycle that you are able and willing to listen and empathize with. And then you dialogue with that voice until it's heard. Now, there's a couple of, when you say tell me more and what you're looking for an age, an inner age. That's one thing you're looking for. And you're also looking for archetypes. The critical parent is an archetype and a very active voice in inner dialogue. The nurturing parent is another one. Or forget about archetypes. That's mom saying that. That's dad saying that. That's mom reacting to what dad says, right? So, mom and dad may have their reactivity. At some point, is there any point in the reactivity back and forth, if they're just arguing back and forth in your inner dialogue, is there a place where you can witness that and be empathic to one or the other? Not as the child, not as one of the voices, right? Because they're all in their dynamic. What you want to be is empathic as a witness, as someone who's never met this family, someone who's wandering along, seeing these 7 nice people lost in deep trance and arguments with one another. And you want to, empathize. Like when you have no stake in the game, when you're just witnessing and are transcendent or outside of the loop, the witness is always compassionate, is always curious, is always interested. In other words, if you're judgmental, you're the judge, right? So then you need to maybe listen to the judge. If the judge needs to say something, that's wrong, that's stupid, that's bad. How does that feel? How old are you, judge? What bothers you about those things, right? So the witness is the one who is curious, who's interested, and who cares. Like, you just want these people to be happy. They're locked in their little prison loop in there. You want them to be happy. So the witness cares. The witness is curious. The witness is not attached to making anyone do anything, who's right and who's wrong. Witness is just being empathic, like, oh, that sounds really, really difficult. I began the kind of dialogue, as a 5-year-old. Then I went to my 8-year-old. Then I went to the critical parent criticizing the 8-year-old. Then I went into the witness, right? Then I went into the 8-year-old's anger at mom. Then I went into mom's just infuriated, rage and all this stuff, so unprepared to be a parent, anger and, just outrage, right, at the 8-year-old. So then I was the witness with mom, right, back and forth with mom. Mom would, these ungrateful children, I don't want to deal with them, this and that, the other. Sounds pretty tough, right? Probably no one prepared you to be a parent. But this is the witness speaking. I mean, the child has zero space for this kind of irresponsibility. What, you had a child, you didn't bother preparing, you dumb fuck, you idiots, and then how? So the child and the parent, there's no space, right? Because the child wants and deserves a far more competent parent than they're getting. And the parent doesn't want to deal with children at all and is incompetent as a parent, right? And so there's no way for those two to win in a direct dialogue, right? And that's unfortunately what's often left is a direct dialogue. And so where the witness comes in, though, is, wow, that's pretty tough, becoming a parent without any training. Just getting pregnant and being told that that's, you should have a child and that's the way it is, right? And then you didn't get enough sleep and this and that. So the witness is able to, the witness is able to dialogue and empathize with the critical parent. And until the critical parent can back off a bit and stop being so bullying, right? And understand and feel heard. Well, the other voices in there get to watch that, right? And so they get to also understand, like, gosh, I guess it is tough to be mom, right? But they're not being asked to be a parent. That's the witness's job, right? In this case, the witness is the first parent in the dynamic, because mom is in critical parent role, but she's not actually a competent parent. She's a child being pushed into a role while having all her own fears and insecurity as an inner 4-year-old, right? So she's dealing with that. So the witness is being the parent to mom, who never had a real parent and who can't be a parent. So the witness is being a parent to them until mom has a little bit of space not to attack everything the child says, which then allows space for the witness to come into the child and start dialoguing with the child. That's what do you have to say about this? Well, she should have been prepared. Yeah, of course, that would have been really great, wouldn't it? To have a prepared parent who bothered to read a few manuals, right? That's not the witness talking, by the way. That's the sarcasm of the teenager. Would have been great, right? And so, and then the teenager's there, the hurt, that the teenager desperately needs a role model to validate the teenager. And that was where the real breakthrough came through. So much of my life has been in the guilt and the cynicism and sarcasm and disappointment of the teenager. 2 children for parents, no one able to notice what's wanting to be seen, what's needing to be recognized, no one validating the potential, and showing any interest in it, right? They're just 2 parents locked up in their own thing. And a teenager is not an adult, a teenager needs an elder to hear, to witness, to validate. Well, he didn't get it, right? And so he's still stuck feeling all the unworthiness, all the rage, all the hatred that these dumb fucking parents, see, we're back into teenager again, these dumb fucking parents, how can they be so fucked up that they didn't have a single moment, a few hours, right, to step out of their stupidity, their self-absorption, their endless going at it all? Couldn't they just go, for a few hours and actually see me, to bless me and welcome me into the world? And the answer is no, they couldn't. They couldn't. But you see, the witness can. The witness can look at that with compassion, say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. There's so much there in you, waiting to be honored, waiting to be seen. And they never saw it. They couldn't see it. They couldn't honor themselves. They couldn't honor you. How painful to be locked in this shape, waiting, year after year after year. So much bottled up energy. That sounds absolutely horrifying. But you know what? I see you. I see you. What an incredible possibility field. What an incredible energy opportunity. I see you. What a beautiful human being. You see, and that goes into the adolescent. And the adolescent begins to open, begins to respond. And then the witness can validate that. You're beginning to open, you're beginning to respond. How exciting. I'm happy to see you coming out. It's been so lonely. It's been so difficult. It has. It's been incredibly lonely. And I'm so sorry that no one was there. I'm sorry that I wasn't there, but I'm here for you. I'm here for you. I want to see you. I want to know you. I want to look at those different threads of possibility and where they could go. And that's an incredible blossoming point in this dialogue. Now, I want to step back a little bit to acknowledge that it may be difficult to hold all of this in one person, right? So it takes a certain amount of development, a certain amount of muscle to be able to first locate and express all the buried voices, because there are shaming voices within the cult, within the culture, within the family system. And shaming voices say that it's not okay to be whatever is. That's what a shaming voice is. A shaming voice looks at what is and says, that's not okay. That's not okay. Well, the trouble is, what is. And if what is knew how to be more evolved, better than what is, it would be doing it, number one. If anyone else knew how to help what is to be better than what is, they would be doing it. So when you say it is not okay that you're feeling this, it's not okay that you're supposed to be the parent. Yes, you're a 4-year-old self-absorbed narcissistic child that isn't ready to be a parent, but you're supposed to be a parent. Now get it together. That can work to some extent, sometime. But it is a shaming, shut-down thing. It's shutting down that traumatized 4-year-old that's so self-absorbed that needs help in order to try and find some other older part in the psyche that maybe can show up, or at least go into your head and say, this is what a parent should be doing, and then do that because that's what you should be doing. But it doesn't transform the system. It is a shutdown voice. And there is so much incompetence psychically, culturally. There's so much incompetence that maybe 40, 50% of the voices in the cult are shaming voices. You shouldn't want that, right? So there's shame around lust, all the lust energy out there that you shouldn't want to do this, you shouldn't want to do that, that's a bad lust, don't do that, right? So shut down the lust energy, which is the most creative biological energy in existence. That's what life is all about. Two distinct energies coming together, having sex, creating more synergy and more energy. Right? But shut that down. And then you shouldn't have bad feelings about your parents, and you shouldn't you shouldn't hate your children, you shouldn't do this. Shut that down. Well, when you shut down half of the psyche, you end up needing to shut down the other half, because the other half might move into this taboo area. And so it's difficult to start overcoming the shame voices to actually even see what the dialogue is. And it's not really a dialogue, it's a trialogue. It's a process of all these different inner voices communicating with one another. And so, an internal family systems therapy is kind of a paradigm for dealing with this. Constellation therapy allows other people to play all these different roles, which creates a lot more progress, right? If other people are, this one will be your mom, and this one will be your 5-year-old, and this one will be your 6-year-old, and this one will be your grandfather, and this one will be your school teacher, and this one will be your first love, and they all duke it out, and you can be the witness watching them talk, so it makes it a little bit easier. But it is a rare opportunity, meaning it's very good if you can create a family constellation regularly to deal with these types of things. But for example, I didn't have access to a constellation facilitator and 20 people when I wanted to do this work. And so you can also work one-on-one in what's called chair therapy, where you have a therapist that's hopefully being some of the compassionate witness, number one, and number two, where you move around in different chairs, and this chair is this person, and this chair is this person, and you can do that work. And that only takes 2 people. But again, that's maybe, once a week, once a month with a person at a particular time. What happens when you want to do this dialogue, when you want to understand, when you have a decision to make, you want to understand all the voices in there and what they have to say about it. So that's, if you are willing to understand that every voice has a reason for existence, every voice has a reason for existence, and every voice is doing the best it knows how within an incredibly incompetent culture. It's doing the best it knows how with very low levels of psychological literacy by copying and mirroring and internalizing whatever it was given. So this dialogue process allows that to come to life. Much more importantly, when you have I need this and I need this, and nobody has anything to give, you can stay in this bound up state for decades. I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. And this one doesn't have what that one needs, and this one doesn't have what that one needs. So when you bring the witness in, the witness has an infinite amount of presence, curiosity, understanding, empathy, because it's not involved. You look at 2 siblings duking it out for 30 years. Neither one has what the other one needs, right? And you just feel sorry, or you feel it's a bit funny. It's like, all you would need to do is give them that. Why don't you do that, right? But it's like, it's coming from a scarcity dynamic. They don't have it, right? But the witness has it. And so going in and making the inner dialogue explicit without judgment, with compassion, with empathy, to really look at these people as if they're just strangers. Like the witness is not bound up in any of this. They could stay suffering for the rest of their lives, and the witness is just present. Present moment awareness. And in the present moment awareness, everything's great. Right? The witness doesn't believe this and that, but the witness understands and empathizes. So this is the process and so the technique is, first of all, you have to identify, you have to let a voice speak, and you have to identify it. So I let the voice speak like, don't tell me what to do. So then I put a colon, and I will say, how old is this voice? It feels like it's about 5 years old, just furious at being told what to do. Okay, 5 years old. I might also notice, where is it in my body? It's right here. Okay, So 5 years old, solar plexus. And I might also see if there's a memory around that event, that crystallized that as the dominant expression of the 5-year-old around this type of situation. So now I know who I'm talking with. And then the next thing is I'll use bullet points. I'll indent for the witness so that I can go back and forth there. Now the witness might do a variety of things. The witness could say, "Great, good job, 5 years old, for standing up for yourself. Good for you." Could be a kind of a supportive. But the witness's main job is to love and just to say, tell me more. I want to really understand you. I want to understand why it's so enraging to be told what to do here. Well, you have no idea. Every time I try to do this and this and this, they stop me. And then they want me to be motivated. And so then we can go into the adolescent, right? Meaning the adolescent may answer the question the 5-year-old can't. So that's a different bullet point. So now we have an adolescent, 13-year-old. Now this can be like the adolescent critic, those dumb idiots. The 5-year-old probably doesn't feel that way as much, but the adolescent is like, those dumb idiots. Every time my 5-year-old tries to do something healthy, they shut it down, and then they complain that he's depressed. Fucking idiots. It's like, yeah, it sounds like you've really got some crazy parents. You've no idea how crazy. Well, tell me about it. Well, they fucking do this, then they do that. And every time this is just about to work, they get in and they ruin it. And then you let that out, and then the witness can come in and say, wow, gosh, that's just so difficult. Yes, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Wow, that's even more difficult. How are you feeling with that? Like, that's difficult. That's hard. How are you feeling with that? Oh, you have no idea. Well, I just feel so bottled up, right? Because I want to kill him. But the reason I want to kill him is they're blocking all the flow. They're blocking all the love. Everything that's good that's happened. I want to have this nice interaction. I want to have a good bond with my parents. Instead, I want to kill him. And now I want to kill him because I feel like trying to kill him when what I really want is this great relationship. Like, how heartbreaking. It's the witness. How heartbreaking. How absolutely heartbreaking. You've tried to love these people that are incapable of being loved. How heartbreaking. You feel that. Let the adolescent go into the sadness. I'm here for you. Got all the space in the world for you. Now, you can do this with a therapist if you have a good therapist. You can do it alone even better. Many times therapists don't know what they're doing, right? They step in and advocate for the parent or whatever rather than hearing the adolescent, but they were doing the best. That's the child apologizing for the parent. It's not giving the adolescent what it needs, right? So it's complex because everyone that speaks, the witness's job is to hear all of them. Now, when there's impatience and reactivity, another voice that hasn't had its need met will react and respond to the first voice. What do you mean, adolescent? You're so ungrateful. Why just look at your father and all he's trying to do. It's like, oh, now the witness has to come into there, right? The witness is not a judge. That's a judge. The judge comes in, this one's the good one, that one's the bad one. Oh, seems like you need to have something to say, judge. How do you feel about that? What's your role, judge? And you go back to the witness again, and back to the parent. It's like, it seems like it's really scary to maybe see your children not appreciating you. Maybe they'll grow up and leave you and never get how difficult it was for you. And you're wanting someone to take care of you. Hopefully your children, right? You're going to do this thing and pay these bills, and then they're going to take care of you, right? And now they're not doing that. Look at them, judging you instead. It's like, so it's terrifying. Like, I'm not enough. I'm not doing it good enough. Terrifying. Be with that. Be with that as the witness. So this all takes place in 30 minutes. And so much gets expressed. So much gets expressed and understood. And on the other side of all that bottled up energy, as it's unraveling, you can celebrate as the witness. Teenager feels seen and appreciated more. Parent is a little less terrified of being all alone in an unworthy state. Child feels a little bit less guilty, like I'm a bad person because I'm criticizing my parent. I'm bad. Be with that child. Be with that child. Play with that child. The witness can do that. Now, as each part of the self gets what it needs from present moment awareness from the witness, they start to love themselves through the eyes of the witness. And as they love themselves, they can give some love to the other parts of the self, a little compassion. The adolescent can say, I'm not going to take care of mom and dad for the rest of my life. I'm not going to limit myself. I'm certainly not going to wait around for their approval anymore. I know where I'm going. But I can also say, it's probably pretty tough to be a parent without any training. And I'm sorry they had to go through all that. But that's not going to stop me from developing my abilities. So there's a little intro into what I think is one of the most magical and powerful techniques, that in 30 minutes of just a keyboard, some bullet points, and framing and naming. And you have to have met yourself for this to happen. Otherwise, this makes no sense. You meet yourself in meditation. You meet yourself sometimes with psychedelics, which is a whole nother, category that give yourself a few hundred hours to explore the territory of psychedelics before playing around with something that's so volatile. But, you can meet yourself in some way. Once you've met yourself and you're able to connect with the self, which is the transcendent, non-judgmental, present, just loves being. That's its only job, is to be without words. Then that self can kind of feed energy towards a nurturing parental guidance part, a teacher part. The self is transcendent when it comes to words, but you can put words in. The self is very generous when it comes to speaking the words that other parts of the identities need to hear in order to break free of their loop, of their inward bound shape, stuck in a traumatized shape where they can't move on because they need something that isn't provided in the environment. The self has an endless amount of presence to give to all those other parts.